There are many good reasons for a married couple to file a joint tax return, but one of the reasons spouses don't file jointly is that one spouse has a past debt that will result in their joint refund being taken and applied to that debt. But there is a way that married couples in this situation can file jointly, and the spouse without the debt can actually receive part of the refund. I'm the Tax Geek, and here is the Injured Spouse Allocation, oversimplified. There are three principal reasons the IRS offsets a refund to satisfy a debt: past due federal or state taxes, unpaid child or spousal support, and student loans that are in default. When a married couple files jointly, if one of the spouses is subject to a refund offset, the entire refund from the joint return will be subject to the offset, even if the spouse without the debt would have been entitled to a refund based on that spouse's income, withholdings, and credits. One solution to this problem would be for the spouses to file separately, but spouses filing separately have the potential to miss out on many tax advantages. A better solution would be for the spouses to allocate their income, deductions, credits, and payments using an injured spouse allocation. This form can either be filed with the joint return or separately after a refund has been offset in an attempt to reclaim some of it. Please do not confuse the term injured spouse with the term innocent spouse. An innocent spouse is a spouse that owes taxes on a jointly filed return where the innocent spouse did not know, or had no reason to know, the other spouse's understated income or overstated deductions. This is a complex subject, and if you think you might be in this situation, the best thing to do is seek professional assistance for a proper resolution. For a spouse to qualify as an injured spouse, both of the following must be true. First, you must file a joint return, and that return should show a refund. You are not an injured spouse if you have a balance due on your joint return because your spouse either underwithheld or failed to make estimated payments. Second, you expect the IRS to offset the refund to pay past due taxes, child or spousal support, or student loan debt owed by your spouse that you are not obligated to pay. And at least one of the following must be true. You had taxes withheld from your income, or made estimated tax payments in your own name, you had earned income, such as wages or self-employment income, you claimed the earned income credit or additional child tax credit, or you claim any other refundable tax credit. An injured spouse allocation is made on Form 8379. The first part of the form asks several questions to see if an injured spouse allocation can be made. Part 2 gives information as to which of the two spouses on the return is the injured spouse, and where and how any refund is to be issued. Part 3 shows how the couple would like to have income, deductions, credits, and payments allocated to each spouse. The important thing to remember here is that this is what the couple is proposing, and the IRS might allocate items differently. Finally, Part 4 is a signature section. This only needs to be completed if the form is being sent on its own and not part of a tax return. Let's see how all this works with an example. Ernest and Winifred were married in 2021. Here is Ernest's W-2 for 2022, and here is Winifred's. They had no other income. They intend to take the standard deduction and claim 2 children as dependents: Mackenzie, Ernest's child from a previous marriage, and Allison, who is their child together. Earnest is pursuing his bachelor's degree, and his total cost for tuition, fees, and books was $7,340. Ernest and Winifred's joint return is shown here, with a refund of $4,062. However, Winifred has a prior year federal income tax debt of $10,652. She is making installment payments on this debt, but the IRS will still take their joint refund to help satisfy it. So they wish to file an injured spouse allocation to preserve Ernest's part of any refund. Ernest answers the questions in Part 1 of the form and qualifies as an injured spouse. Let's take a quick look at Question 5. Ernest and Winifred do not live in a community property state. If they did live in a community property state, joint income and deductions have to be allocated according to that particular state's law, which can vary. The IRS will apply these laws to the allocation if applicable. In Part 2 of the form, they indicate that Ernest is the injured spouse, and it's okay for the check to be issued in both their names. They also want the check mailed to the address on the original return. In Part 3, they allocate the figures from the return. The total amounts from the return are shown in column A of Part 3. Their individual incomes and withholdings are entered on lines 13 and 19. It's usually best to allocate as many tax benefits as possible to the injured spouse. However, on line 15, they split their standard deduction. Why not give it all to Earnest? Because the IRS will not allow him to claim a higher refund than he would have had he filed separately. On a separate return, he would have been eligible to claim only a $12,550 standard deduction. On the other hand, since both children are Earnest's qualifying children, he can claim the full $4,000 child tax credit plus $1,500 of his American Opportunity Credit as a non-refundable credit. Finally, he enters the $1,000 refundable portion of his American Opportunity Credit on line 17. At this point, the form is complete and can be included with the tax return. One downside of the injured spouse allocation is that it takes substantially longer to process the return. It may take several weeks or even months before the return is processed and the refund sent. Each allocation has to be evaluated and checked for accuracy by a real person at the IRS. It's also important to note at this point that the IRS will not grant Earnest any tax benefit as an injured spouse he would not have been entitled to on the joint return. For example, if the couple's joint adjusted gross income had been too high for Earnest to claim the American Opportunity Credit, he wouldn't qualify for it as an injured spouse, even if his separate income was within the guidelines to claim the credit. If the joint return shows an earned income credit, the IRS will allocate the credit proportionally by each spouse's income. After waiting several weeks, Earnest receives a check for his allocation of the joint return's refund. The remainder of the refund, if any, will go towards reducing Winifred's prior tax debt. There are many more additional details to the injured spouse allocation process, including the actual calculations the IRS uses in allocating the refund. As usual, you'll find links to additional resources and information in the video description. Please like and subscribe if you found this video informative, and share it with others who might find it useful. Your questions, comments, and suggestions are always welcome in the comment space below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more of Your Taxes Oversimplified.